spirit and in truth. Glory to the faithful one, Jesus Christ, God's Son. God is great, and his praise fills the earth, it fills the heavens, and your name will be praised to all the world. God is great, sing his praise, all the earth, all the heavens, 'cause we're living for the glory of your name, glory of your name. And all creation gives you praise. You alone are truly great. You alone are God who reigns for eternity. And all creation gives you praise. You alone are truly great. You alone are God who reigns for eternity. God is great, and his praise fills the earth, fills the heavens, and your name will be praised to all the world. God is great, sing his praise, all the earth, all the heavens, 'cause we're living for the glory of your name. God is great, and his praise fills the earth, fills the heavens, and your name will be praised to all the world. God is great, sing his praise, all the earth, all the heavens, 'cause we're living for the glory of your name, glory of your name. All to you, our Lord, we bring. Jesus, teach us how to live. Let your fire burn in us, that all may hear, all may see. God is great, and his praise fills the earth, it fills the heavens, and your name will be praised to all the world. God is great, sing his praise, all the earth and all the heavens, 'cause we're living for the glory of your name. Oh, God is great, sing his praise, all the earth, all the heavens, and your name will be praised to all the world. God is great, sing his praise, all the earth, all the heavens, 'cause we're living for the glory of your name, the glory of your name. And holy is the Lord, the whole earth sings, the whole earth sings. Holy is the Lord, the whole earth sings, the whole earth sings. And holy is the Lord, the whole earth sings, the whole earth sings. Oh, holy is the Lord, the whole earth sings, the whole earth sings. God is great, and his praise fills the earth, it fills the heavens, and your name will be praised to all the world. God is great, sing his praise, all the earth and all the heavens, 'cause we're living for the glory of your name. God is great, and his praise fills the earth, fills the heavens, and your name will be praised to all the world. God is great, breathless, 'cause we're living for the glory of your name, the glory of your name, glory of your name. And holy is the Lord. The whole earth sings, the whole earth sings. And holy is the Lord. The whole earth sings, the whole earth sings. Oh, and holy is the Lord. The whole earth sings, the whole earth sings. Oh, holy is the Lord. The whole earth sings, the whole earth sings. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. And I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied hearing your love. Oh, I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied hearing your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, oh, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. And I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all. Still you call me friend, 'cause the God of the mountain, He is the God of the valley, and there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing are never enough. Then you came along and you put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied here in your love. So I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. You sing them all, still you call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley, and there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. 'Cause I've searched the world and it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Oh, I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. 'Cause oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, oh, nothing is better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, oh, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, oh, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing oh, we worship you. Yes, we worship you, we glorify you. Oh, Lord, you are good. Yeah, yeah. We worship you. Oh, yes, we worship you alone. Yes, we worship you. Yes. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh. Pour it out. Let your love run over. And here and now, let your glory fill this house. Pour it out. Let your love run over. And here and now, let your glory fill this house and pour it out. Let your love run over. And here and now, let your glory fill this house and pour it out. Let your love run over. And here and now, let your glory fill this house. Fullness of eternal promise is stirring in your sons and daughters, in earth revealing heaven's wonders. Spirit come, Spirit come. The fullness of eternal promise is stirring in your sons and daughters, in earth revealing heaven's wonders. And Spirit come, Spirit come. Pour it out. Let your love run over. And here and now, let your glory fill this house. Pour it out. Let your love run over. what you spoke, it's now unfolding. And all your children shall behold it. And dreams awaken in this moment. Spirit come, Spirit come. And now the world awaits your presence. And this power is within us. We will rise to be your witness. Spirit come, Spirit come, whoa, Spirit come, Spirit come, oh, Spirit come, Spirit come, and pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. Pour it out, let your love run over. And here and now, let your glory fill this house. And pour it out, oh, let your love run over. And here and now, oh, let your glory fill this house. And pour it out, let your love run over. And here and now, let your glory fill this house. Tongues of fire, testifying of the Son, one desire. Spirit come, speak revival. Prophesy like it is done, one desire. Spirit come, tongues of fire, testifying of the Son, one desire. Spirit come, speak revival, and prophesy like it is done, one desire. Spirit come, ooh yeah, Spirit come, yeah. Oh, Spirit come, oh, fresh and new, Spirit come, yes, pour it out. Oh, pour it out, Lord. Oh, pour it out, Lord. Yeah, yeah, yes. Oh, we worship you. Yes, we worship you. We worship you. Pour it out on all the earth. Oh, and all the earth. As we lift you up, as we worship you, oh God, we worship you alone, you alone. Worship you alone. Yes, we worship you alone. Oh, we worship you, we worship you. Yeah, we glorify you. Yeah, yeah. tongues of fire, prophesying of the Son, one desire. Spirit come, revival. Oh, prophesy like it is done, one desire. Spirit come, tongues of fire, testifying of the Son, one desire. Spirit come, speak revival, and prophesy like it is done, one desire. Spirit come. Oh, yeah. We've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way. I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I'll see you do it again. Oh, yeah. I'll see you do it again. I'll see you do it again. Yeah, yeah. I'll see you do it again. I'll see you do it again. Oh, yes. I'll see you do it again. 'Cause your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. No, you never fail, never fail. So pour it out. Let your love run over. And here and now, let your glory fill this house and pour it out. Let your love run over. And here and now, let your glory fill this house. Here I am, God, arms wide open. I'm pouring out my life, gracefully broken. And here I am, God, arms wide open. I'm pouring out my life, gracefully broken. So take all I have in these hands and multiply, God, all that I am, and find my heart on the altar again. Set me on fire, oh, set me on fire, and take all I have in these hands and multiply, God, all that I am, and find my heart on the altar again. Set me on fire, set me on fire. Oh, 'cause my heart, it stands in awe of your name, your mighty love. It stands strong to the end. You will fulfill your purpose for me. You won't forsake me. You will be with me. Yeah. Oh, and my heart, it stands in awe of your name and your mighty love. Seated this morning. It is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Cool thing about being a mom is you have those that are moms that are your natural mothers, which is the only way we get here. And you have those that have mothered you through the years, and that's also the only way we get here to make it through. So since it's Mother's Day, Debbie gets the blessing of speaking this morning. I think it's a great thing. I know last year we missed it, but we're back on track now, and she's just going to have to live with the fact that she'll be on the internet. So,
I did not need that reminder. um, thank you. Happy Mother's Day to all of you, too. So as we know, over the last several years, Mike's been talking to us about recognizing, reconciling, and reprogramming. And he's told us he's probably going to do that for the rest of his life. He was telling us when we were in Amarillo that I think Bob Cornwell had told him that for a lot of people, they hit on the one thing that they're supposed to preach on forever, and this is his. And it's a really good thing. Do I need different ones? Okay. And it's a really good thing, and it's something we need to be doing for the rest of our lives. It doesn't matter how old we get. There's always going to be, as long as we're dealing with people, there's always going to be things we're going to need to reconcile. If you get old enough that your children put you in a nursing home, you're going to have to reconcile some things. And just any dealings with people, it's going to be an ongoing thing. And I think, and hopefully it's getting to where it's kind of becoming more automatic for us. As we've heard about it over the years. I know sometimes I'll even be watching a TV show or reading a book or something. I'm like, oh, they need to reconcile some stuff. That would be really helpful to them. And it is just so helpful to us. But I just some of my personal experiences and then some of the things that you hear, we get to talk to a lot of people. And talking to people over the years, I don't know that with maybe some of the smaller things or some of the things that are so far in our past that we just don't really think about them because they've always been part of our life and how we've thought and sometimes even of who we've become. They've helped develop who we've become, whether for good or bad. And I've noticed just talking to people, lots of stuff from a lot of times people will say, well, when I was a kid or when I was in school or something like that. And sometimes that's great, but, even Mike has talked about having to reconcile some things from those years. And we have to see things differently, maybe from a different perspective. And so I was thinking about, like, some of the things that from when we were kids can be things with other kids that, kids aren't always nice to each other. And a lot of times we have people, well, when I was a kid, this person said this to me. And I think that is just general. Mike has talked about that too, about having lots of rejection issues because of things like that. And I don't think any of us are different than that. But when we go back and look at those things, we can look at them with different perspectives. And we can know, as adults, we know that kids' brains are not fully developed, and they don't respond right necessarily, and they don't think right. And then as kids also, we don't also see things right and have the right perspective. And and so much of stuff that in any time of our life that people say to us or do to us, it has not that much to do with us and has more to do with them and what's going on in their lives. I was watching this particular TV show, and there was this bully, and she was just being really nasty to this girl, and you just really hated her automatically because she was just so nasty. But then she went home, and what was going on at home was her mom was bullying her. She was locking her in her room, and so then you felt sorry for this girl who you'd hated, 15 minutes before. And we just don't always, particularly as kids, we don't think to look beyond what we're being told or what's being done to us. And I really think we have to do that, give grace to people to do that. Even if it's not about the people, everything we do is not as much about the people as it is for setting ourselves free and getting loose from some things. I saw a thing somebody posted just on Facebook yesterday. It said, if you knew me before my 20s, you never really knew me. And I think that's so true. But it's not even just if it's before our 20s. It's like every different age or different season, we become different people. And so then we have to give grace to ourselves and then grace to other people to to let them live in that change and to not hold past stuff against them. I know I don't want to be judged for anything I did when I was a kid, and I don't think anybody else does either. And then also we can have issues for sure when we're growing up with our families. That's a fun dynamic a lot of times. And I think probably that's one we are more quick to, as we've been going through this, to learn to reconcile. But, just because you were raised in the same house doesn't even mean you had the same experience as your siblings. So you have to forgive some things in that way that you just didn't see it, and they were reacting to things that you didn't know was going on even. And then another area, which I think has been huge for a lot of us, is church people. And this church is really good. And we have not had, we are so blessed, and our kids have not had the same experiences that we had when we were growing up as preachers' kids. But I know this was one of the things that I feel like God was, I don't know if he was bringing it up to me and I wasn't paying good enough attention, or if he was just kind of preparing the ground for bringing it up for me. But one of my big issues in church had been, I don't know what age I was. I'm pretty sure I was a teenager, but they had a church vote, and it finally came to the foreground of my mind. I was standing beside a lady when I was picking up Riley, and she was talking to the teacher, and she said, "Well, the church voted," and she said it like 3 times. And every time she did it, I'm surprised that I couldn't have been making a face while I was standing there beside her, because that's, as I was telling Caitlin after that, I'm like, this is the stuff of my childhood traumas. And that's so hard when church stuff is a part of your childhood traumas. And I think we've been really lucky, but some of us older ones have not been that lucky, and we do have stuff. And in my case, they had a church vote. My dad was the pastor. There was a church vote, and they voted to kick him out of the church, and that means we also lost our home. We didn't have a place to live for a little bit. We weren't homeless. We came up quickly, but still, as a teenager, that's just super traumatic. And that's all I had ever seen it as, was just this was this terrible thing that happened, and these people were awful. And then when I finally started paying attention, or he finally got to where he's like, okay, you can handle this now, then I had to look at, okay, but why did they do that? What was there a reason? And there was reasons. There was good reasons, and it should have been done. And so then that was able to change things for me to where, now if none of these people are my Facebook friends, but like their parents or grandparents maybe are my Facebook friends, then if I see their picture, I'm not, there's the feelings become completely different, and they change. And, we just can't let past experiences determine how we see people, because people are just different and our experiences are different. And that can be hard sometimes, but in Ephesians 4:32, it says, "Be kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you." And sadly for us, sometimes it doesn't mean if they were always good to you or if they did the right thing to you. That is just what we are called to do. We are called to forgive, and we are called to be kind and tender-hearted to one another. And the problem, a lot of times, is when we don't reconcile our things, then we start to build walls, and they're walls of protection. We're trying to protect ourselves from being hurt again, being ever put in that position again. I know one of my big things, even with the church thing, was I'm never going to be a pastor's wife, and see how that worked out for me. But we tell ourselves these things, and we build walls, and fortunately, we're not in that kind of church. I don't know that I could be in that kind of church, but we build walls to protect ourselves, but then the problem for us is we become trapped behind those walls, and then we're not as free to have the relationships that we should have, and it just causes us a lot of baggage, really. And the thing I see, too, is when we build these walls, generally if we're building walls to protect us from people, we're also building walls with God, and kind of, because we can tend to blame him for, well, you shouldn't have let that go that way. You shouldn't have, you should have done different it would have been better if it had come out of a different way. And, whether we think that's true or not, the thing is that God has a way of using all those things and turning all those things to good for us. I several months ago now, Mike had posted a song on his Facebook, and it's called "Make Room," and it said, "Here is where I lay it down, every lie and every doubt, every burden, every crown, I think, but and I will make room for you." And it talks about surrender, like we were just talking or singing in the song, and that's the thing, when we lay these things down and we reconcile these things and reprogram our thinking, then we make room for God to do better things for us and for us to see what God did do through the things. Because a lot of times, even if we think things did not turn out well, if we really look back on the situation, we can see the good things that God did and what he brought out of it, and how he changed us. I can remember just recently Kim was talking, we were talking about, when her mom, and that was, not how we wanted it to turn out, but then, God just asked her, am I God or not? And we know that he is, and he is faithful, and he takes all of our things and he turns it for good. And he uses it, and hopefully he helps us. He uses us to help other people who've gone through something similar or go through the same things, or just to be there and help people. But we have to, in Romans 12:2, it says, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And when I was reading it this week, I just thought the transformed part of, I know we say that a lot, be transformed by the renewing of our mind, but just the transformed part became more real to me. When we do these things, we become transformed, and we don't have the bitterness and the hurt and the anger and the frustrations that we used to. And we make room for God to work, and we make room for love and peace and grace and forgiveness and good things that we want in our life instead of the other things. I had written down that we can't define God by our worst moment, which is kind of true, but it's kind of not, because once we have reconciled it, we can define him by our worst moments, because we can see his faithfulness and we can see his grace and all he's done for us and how we wouldn't have made it through without him and what he could do in us. And so then we can define him by his grace and his mercy. Sorry.
Amen. Let's all stand. She hit you with one of the hardest things I think we have to do is reconciling walls that become a protection that becomes your prison. Because for what reason did Christ came? He came that we might be free. No walls to have to protect us, because he's what? He's our protector. He's the one that cares for us. And so I think it's a good thing. It's amazing for me to see in my wife's life how that really, how she's been able to reconcile things, because honestly, she's gone through a lot more things that would be way more emotional to deal with than I've ever had to deal with. And she's reconciled those well. And it's not fun. How many realize that it's not fun to see yourself? Reconciling things is like seeing yourself naked on your worst day. And so it's not fun, but it's effective, and it brings joy to our life afterwards. So, amen. Well, mothers, have a great day today. Hopefully, you'll be in a great place if you're going out today to be able to hit the spots early. And, the Baptists won't be ahead of you, because John Roberts is there this morning, and he'll be long-winded, I hope. So if John watches this later, I hope you preached long, John. Our people need some good food. It's Mother's Day. We're going to try to slip in there early. But have a great week this week. Love one another.